What's up? I'm back again. This time I'm going to be reviewing all the books that I read in October 2025. I only read 4 books this month. These are going to be the books that I read. Yeah, let's just go over them. So, the first book that I read this month was Animal Farm. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have already read a George Orwell book, whether it's 1984 or Animal Farm or any others, which I'm not too familiar with. I've only read 1984, and I've read that book like 3 times just because I really, really enjoyed it. I think the plot twists in that book um, are crazy. I think the themes of the story is crazy, and then you kind of compare it to real life and what's going on right now, and there's a lot of similar themes there. So it's a book that gets me thinking. It's a book that I feel like stands the test of time because at any point in time, I feel like a corruption like that can happen. And Animal Farm is not too far off from that as well. Animal Farm is kind of like a satire. It is a satire. Animal Farm is a satire on governments, on leadership, right? But this story is about animals in a farm who get tired of the life that they're living with their human master, who's using them for their resources like chickens to eggs, cows to milk, etc. And so they kind of feel like they're being used for their resources. They're against humans because humans can't really produce much for society. Without the animals, the humans won't have much. So the animals decide to start a rebellion, um, a revolution, and break away from this civilization and create their own. They create their own form of government called animalism, and they create these sort of 7 commandments to live by. Some of them being like all animals are equal. If a creature walks on 2 legs, they're an enemy. If they walk on 4 legs and or have wings, they're an ally. Um, Animals shall not sleep on a bed. Uh, a couple of rules that where they tie in, like if you're a little similar to humans, you are not welcome in this society, in this village, in this farm. And the farm is being led by these 2 pigs because the pigs in this world are a lot smarter. They can read, they can write, right? So it sort of reflects similar themes of like absolute power corrupts absolutely, and you sort of see the journey that these animals go through in trying to create their own society. And the not to spoil too much, but this book is really really smart in the way that it's sort of picking at certain governments. And I'm sure at the time of when it was written, you can kind of like say like, oh, this animal's representing this person, this animal's representing that person in that time of I believe was the rise of Russia's communism, the Soviet Union, in that sort of field. Now, don't attack me here. I'm just going off the top of my head from what I know. And something that I think is kind of funny is that this was a banned book in a lot of places. I know that in some places in the United States it was banned, not like nationwide, but some places were pulling it off shelves because they said it was spreading, political theories. But really, I think it's because it's not really a criticism on communism, but it more kind of shows the flaws in both communism and capitalism. Because I believe the writer was more of like a socialist. I'm not too familiar with all of that, but it is interesting, and it is something to keep in mind. You know, and, going back to 1984, because the whole book was kind of like the Matrix in a way, where it's like, are you gonna take the red pill or the blue pill? One pill wakes you up from the world you're living in to kind of get you to be like, this stuff ain't right. And it is important. It is very important to always keep that in mind because you don't want to be controlled. And that's a big, big theme in both 1984 and Animal Farm. So it's an important book to read, I think. It's going to be relevant always because, I don't think there's ever been a utopian society. And until that day, it is important to have texts like these to remind us of, what can come about corruption, what can come about evil within your government and whatnot. So yeah, this book to me was a solid 5 out of 5. It was both an interesting story. It was really easy to read along, and it's a short book. You can finish it in probably a day if you really locked in. I finished it in about 2 to 3 days just because I took my time with it. But easy read, fun read as well because it is a satire at the end of the day. It's not super serious, but it's got those themes on there. So, and I definitely recommend to pick it up because it is a good read. So yeah, 5 out of 5. Now, the next book that I read is one called Strange Pictures by Oketsu. And fun fact about this guy, he's actually a YouTuber. And I looked up his YouTube channel. It's kind of spooky, honestly. He has some really spooky themes on there. But I found this book. I was at a bookstore in Portland, Oregon, at the City of Books, and I saw this on display. It was like a lot of books. This one was like highlighted as like, pick this book up. And so I just skimmed through it real quick, right? And I'll show you. It had a lot of cool drawings on there, and I'll get to that in a second. Now, the drawings are on there because it follows some mystery, and it begins with these two kids. They go to a university, and they're a part of this like paranormal club at their school, right? And these two friends are kind of looking into this blog about this guy. He was like updating his blog about his life, his wife and whatnot. His wife would draw these pictures for him, and he would post them on there and talk about them. But when the kids were looking at the drawings, they were noticing like something suspicious about it. It was like a picture that was missing pieces. And so you as the viewer, you get to look at these drawings as well. They're in the book, and kind of see if you can solve this puzzle before you get to the end of the story. So it was really fun. It was really interactive, and the story is told in multiple perspectives. So like every chapter is like a new perspective from a different character. So like as you're reading this along, you're picking up the clues together. So yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. It was the first book that I read that was like that, where you can have to like figure it out yourself. And I thought that was probably the best part of the book. The story itself, like the plot, um, it was okay. It was good. I would say like it was not bad. There was nothing bad about it, but I mean it was light. I'll say that it was a light book. I honestly I read it in a day. I think I read it in a day. Yeah. So it was a really easy read, really fun, and I don't want to say too much because if I say more about it, it'll spoil the story. But I will say if you're looking for something that is an easy read, in the theme of horror, because it is like a mystery, right? You're solving who done it type thing, and see if you can figure it out before you get to the end of the book. So yeah, overall I would say that book was a good easy read. It's something if you want to add to your reading challenge and you want to get something done really quickly before the year ends. We're already in November, so if you want something quick, definitely add that to your TBR. You'll probably finish it in a day or two. It's honestly really easy. So yeah, I would say this one was more like a 4 out of 5. It was fun, interactive, but I would have liked a little bit more depth, to kind of grab onto. But yeah, moving on to the next one. This next book is a book that was caught under my radar because I saw the trailer for the movie. And yeah, I'm the type of dude who loves to watch a movie and read the book. Like I love comparing the two. I love seeing how, the movie did it. Sometimes the movie will do it better, sometimes the book does it better. A lot of times the book does it better, but I'm just a enjoyer of both. So that's why I got under my radar. And before reading it, I found out that Stephen King actually wrote this book under like a fake name, and I can't remember if it was either to see if he can reach success under a fake name, or if it was because he was just trying to use this name as like an outlet. But he was definitely keeping it under wraps. He wasn't trying to say that that was him. But I think I heard that he got like outed by some sort of like journalist or blog or something, and so he wasn't able to continue making this character or writing books under this name. I can't remember which one of the two was true. Fun fact aside, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this story. So this story takes place in a dystopian society where there are competitions like the long walk. I don't know if there are more, maybe it's just this one, but it's a long walk, and it's not mandatory, by the way. Like, nobody is forced to go onto this. It's completely voluntary. But if you win basically whatever you want. And I can't remember if there's like an age limit, but there are a bunch of young teenage boys entering, and this thing is basically like a Mr. Beast game, if you think about it. It's a bunch of people going on a long walk, and there's no finish line. Like, you have to keep walking. You have to go at 4 miles an hour, and if you go under it, you'll get some warnings. If you go like 3 warnings or whatever, they'll kill you on the spot. And last man standing wins. Basically, it's a battle royale. And the story, I mean, there's not much that you can say about walking a long road. There's not much you can do. So the story mostly focuses on the relationship between the characters. You follow the main character, Ray Garrity, and he has made a couple of friends in this competition, and all of these boys are kind of creating this bond together to essentially get through this together, to help each other out. I believe some of these are creating pacts to say, like, if we can't make it, we have to make this person win, like this person has to win. And these characters are just suffering together. They're sharing a shared trauma, and they're all trying to get to the finish line, basically. I mean, be the last one standing. And that's the thing that I like. One thing that didn't sit with me is that, like, maybe I watched too many Mr. Beast videos, but everybody seems to be kind of selfish, right? Everybody's kind of like, it's me or no one else. So it's kind of surprising that these characters are so bonded on getting through this together, when at the end of the day, it's only going to be one person winning. So I experienced this book through audiobook, and I listened to a majority of it on a road trip. So I was doing a long drive. It's funny, kind of the comparisons there. It's a long walk and a long drive, but I couldn't really get into it. Maybe it's because I was driving, but there's times where I was just disconnecting from the story, and maybe I just got bored. Like, because it is a slow burn. It takes time to really build this connection between these characters, to really care about them. It got to a point where characters were dying left and right, and I didn't really care. So maybe it was just me. Maybe I wasn't in the right headspace, but I just couldn't connect, and I couldn't really care up until the end. Up until the end is when it started getting really gruesome. It started getting kind of gory, and Stephen King, and he definitely knows how to write gore scenes. He knows how to write characters. That's why I love Stephen King. Some of my favorite books by him are The Shining, November 22nd, 63, which is a time travel story about stopping the Kennedy assassination, which is a mind-blowing story coming from him. One of my favorite books of all time, both The Shining and this one. But anyways, that aside, I love his books. Like, I've also read Fairy Tale, which is like his take on fantasy. So man knows how to write, but I just couldn't connect to this one. I don't know what it was. I don't know if the story just got a little boring, or what it was. Maybe for those who are watching who read this book, tell me what you think. Was I missing something? Should I reread it again? I'm really interested in watching the movie, though, and maybe my opinion might change a little bit after I watch it. Maybe the movie did it better. But I haven't seen it yet. I don't think it's available for streaming yet. But the moment it is, I'm going to be renting it, because the trailer for the movie looked really good. So we'll see. We'll see how my opinion changes. But in terms of the book, I just couldn't connect. I couldn't care. Or maybe I was just in, like, not the right headspace. So I don't know. So yeah, to me, this was a 3 out of 5, unfortunately. And of course, I'm going to keep reading Stephen King. Again, he's one of the greats. He writes like 1,000 books a year, so I'm sure some of these are gonna be bangers. I do have Pet Cemetery and It on my TBR. Definitely next in line for his books. So we'll see. One day I'll be tackling those. Probably Pet Cemetery first, because I already have it on my Kindle. So we'll see. Maybe before the year ends. Moving on to the last book. And lastly, I saved the best book for last, Lightbringer. And this comes from the series Red Rising. I haven't talked about it at all. In fact, reading this book is what made me want to start talking about books online, just because this series is just intense. It's packed with action, drama, characters you love, space, fight scenes. I don't know if I said that already. But this book's got it all, dude. Like, this is one of the coolest series I think I've ever read. And this is the sixth book in this series. So I'm obviously missing 5 books of context. If you're somebody who doesn't know anything about this, I would really, really recommend. Actually, I would really recommend picking up Red Rising. This is the start of it all. It's honestly such a cool book. And so, for those who haven't even heard of it, or haven't started it, or want to start it, you follow a character named Darrow. He lives in a society where everything is run in different colors. You got gold, black, white, etc., etc., etc. At the very bottom is red. And Darrow was a former red turned gold to basically infiltrate that society, that structure of government, so they can free themselves from slavery. So this is spoiler territory now, right now, just a big warning. We're entering this one right here. So click away now, or skip to the end. So in this one, you follow Darrow after he took a big L after fighting against Lysander. Darrow just wants to go home to his family. That's all he wants to do. But he knows that he still has cross his T's, dots his I's before he can really rest. And Lysander's still out there. He's still causing trouble. You know, he's still fighting for the golds and wanting to restore what the golds had. Lysander's vision for the future is like, we still want to have that structure of government, but we're going to be less cruel than how we used to be, before. And Darrow's like, nah, like, I don't trust that. We all need to live equally. We all need to live like a democracy. So Darrow's definitely fighting for that, while Lysander's still trying to fight for that dictatorship rule. And it's a really interesting parallel between the two. At times, I felt like they were kind of on a similar journey, because Darrow's a lot older, while Lysander's a lot younger. And there are these character bonds that have been there for so long. You follow a journey with Severo, and Severo being one of the coolest characters out there too in the story. Um, a lot more depth to him from what happened in the last book, which, by the way, that last book was crazy. Dark Age is truly lives up to its title. And I wish I could talk more about the other books. I really want to make like a separate video, just like ranking my favorite books. So if you're a Red Rising fan, you want to see that, let me know, and I'll make it. But Lightbringer is the second to last book. We're about to reach the finale, and I think where things are right now, it's pretty intense, and I'm excited to see where Darrow is going to go next. Right? I don't want to talk too much about spoilers. I'd rather people kind of read it for yourself. It is a beautiful journey to get there, full of amazing characters, amazing fight scenes. Like, dude, some of the quotes in this series is just crazy. One of the quotes was like, "Tell all who hear that the Reaper sails to Mars, and he calls for an iron rain." It's just like, this dude is so badass. And yeah, he might be committing a couple of war crimes.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
But yeah, dude, this book probably had some pretty high moments for some of my favorite characters. So again, spoilers for those who maybe haven't read it yet. I don't want you to find out that certain characters are in here or whatever. So again, this is a double spoiler warning. But Cassius, dude, he is like, oh my god, what a cool character, man. What a well-written character. He has that same sort of redemption arc where he had some bad moments. He wasn't a good character. He made a lot of mistakes, and I'm sure he's had a lot of regrets, but you could tell he's trying his absolute hardest to redeem himself here. He wants to have growth, and his bond with Darrow, and I'm sure he's trying to build a bond with Severo, and Severo's kind of standoffish, but they all have really cool chemistry together. They were such a cool trio to follow this book. And Lyria, to me, ever since she was introduced, a big fan. I loved her story. I love how she was pretty much from the slums, rising her way up to be on Darrow's team, and she's a red as well. I mean, Darrow's a red too, but I mean, to do it twice, insane. So I love Lyria. I think she's one of the most underrated characters. I don't think people talk about her enough, and she's just absolutely amazing. I love her story. I love anytime I have to read her, and she's gone through some shit too. So really, really cool to see where these characters have ended up, and especially where Cassius ended up. Man, that was pretty tragic. So yeah, this was a good book, and again, I'm excited to see what the next book is gonna bring. For me, this was a 4 out of 5 stars, and again, with how crazy it was and how amazing it is, I'm only giving it 4 out of 5 because I did get through. It felt like it was a slow burn in the middle part of it, right? It wasn't like, for me, it wasn't like a full. It took me some time, and I don't know. Hot take. Dark Age is probably the best book, followed by. See, okay, I need to make a separate video, but I thought Dark Age was better in terms of this trilogy. So yeah, 4 out of 5, 4.8. Really, like that's where I'm looking. I don't want to give it a solid 5. I need to figure out my tiering system because a 5 is just like mind blowing. Like this is crazy. Dark Age was a 5. This one was a 4. It was great. Don't get me wrong. It was good. But I can't wait to see how it concludes. The story's about to end. So yeah. Right now I'm reading Alchemized, and this book is also just really, really good. It's definitely up there as one of the coolest books I think I've read this year in terms of drama, in terms of depth, character. It's got a lot of it. I'll make a whole separate video about that as well. I'm also reading Butcher's Crossing, a Western story, one of my first Western. As I'm playing Red Dead Redemption 2, just really falling in love with that Western aesthetic right now. So those are the 2 books I'm reading currently. I'm gonna have some more coming up this month. If you're interested in joining a book club that I think I want to create for the month of November, I'm gonna be reading this one. My grandmother asked me to tell you she's sorry. And it's by one of my favorite authors, Fredrik Backman. I believe how that's pronounced. He's written 2 amazing stories that I've read, and he's definitely becoming one of my favorite authors right now. So that's going to be the book I'm going to be reading this month. If you want to join along, you're watching this video for the month of November 2025, click the link below. I'll put the link to my book club, and we could read this together on Fable. Fable's a really cool website, not sponsored by the way, but it's a really cool website where you can interact with other people who are reading books that you are. You can interact with them in the comments, follow them, join book clubs. It's a really, really cool community of people, and I really recommend downloading the app. Again, no sponsor at all, but I love these guys. I love this app. It's definitely up there in terms of Goodreads. I like Goodreads because it's my classic, my go-to, but Fable is becoming a favorite outlet for me to review, look up books, and communicate with people who are reading the same books. So yeah, that's about it for my October book reviews. Stay tuned for my November ones. Hopefully I can create another video. The goal is to try to make a video a month. So yeah, we'll see. And leave a like, subscribe if you want to see some more. Peace out.